Do you think we'll ever be just happy?
God, I hope so.
Hey, what's going on out there, YouTube family? This is Sammy Leggett here representing Team JVS. I'm back here again for another movie review. This is going to be a Hulu exclusive called Deep Water. This is starring Ana de Armas and Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck is playing a character that is kind of high profile, got a very attractive wife in Ana de Armas, which is very fascinating because they had a whole relationship as well. The chemistry, I'll get into that in a little bit. But Ana de Armas is playing the role of Melinda, and he's playing the role of Vic. Vic, again, he's, well off. And Melinda, she's along with him well off, but she wants companionship outside of her current relationship marriage. And from that, it starts to spiral into the subconscious of this character, Vic, that Ben Affleck's playing. And I'll kind of break down a little bit of what that is. This also co-stars Lil Rel Howery, Jacob Elordi. If you've seen Euphoria, he's amazing in that. Grace Jenkins is the role of Trixie, the daughter, and Tracy Letts. He also makes an appearance in this one. This is directed by Adrian Lyne. And I think it's coming from a book as well. But let's go ahead and kind of break it down. As far as the visual aesthetic and like the looks and some of the shots, I think that even when they go and do transitions and edits, I think it works really well. Like the movie itself looks really good. It looks like something you should be seeing in a theater. And I think that I can give that all the credit because I was like, man, there's some shots that's like they hone in, they focus in on something. They're trying to show you like the extent to this person's emotional, psychological profile, or why they're doing what they're doing, or small nudges to what might be implied about what somebody's about to do. They do a lot of really good things with that. I think there's a subtle score to it. The score is kind of somber, and it's really reflective on their relationship. Like most of the time, like they might go to a house party, or they might go to like a function, or they might be outside, and all the time, Melinda is almost as though she's searching to get a rise out of her husband. I don't know a lot of the time her psychological motivation. Like it seems very narcissistic, and it seems very off. But then the other counter to that is Ben Affleck's character Vic he's very quietly jealous. He's very quietly to himself. You can tell he's a little off. And because they're legitimately toxic, but then they kind of counter love and need each other. It's a codependency there for different reasons. I think that's the strength of this movie because they do play with that a lot. Like there's some really harsh conversations that are had. It's kind of like take the concept of Malcolm and Marie. Malcolm and Marie, the whole entire film from the beginning in is one night where they just deconstruct each other, And throughout this film, the character Melinda is testing and putting herself in these kind of precarious situations in front of Vic. And initially I was kind of like, it's a rise to get a rise out of, but then most of the time I think, no, it's just really what she wants to do. And I think that the interesting part of that is Ana is amazing. Like she fully, like just the first two acts specifically, she just embraces all of it. Like it's like she's relentless to the point that I'm like, I don't know what kind of spiteful person this is. Like I found myself resenting the character because I was like, why are you doing this? You're like, what is going on? And I think that she plays her role. I think the third act, which I'll bring that to my negatives, is the only thing where it just kind of like, I don't know what they're doing with that. I'll go into that in a second. Ben Affleck, same thing with Vic. Like, he kind of starts off, like, okay, he seems really cool, especially a great relationship with his daughter. But then you notice he's, like, playing around with snails and just kind of to himself, is not really sleeping in the same bed as his wife. It's like, what did he do? You realize, oh, maybe it's not anything that he did, but just the reality of their situation and how everybody around them is kind of... The weird thing is this, is that they are the front and center actors of this, but the background noise, the other friends and family members are the things that kind of allow this stuff to spiral, because Lil Rel plays Grant. It's kind of Ben Affleck's best friend, but I really don't know because he's got other friends around. Where Tracy Letts plays the role of Don, he's kind of like assessing this in a realistic perspective and like, yeah, something's very off about all this and I don't like it, you know, kind of thing. He's addressing it front and center. And then you got like the people that Melinda, like her people, her guy friends. And I think they all play pretty well. But it generally, most of the time, they're just playing off on Ben Affleck. Like you fully understand why he is one of the most dominant versions of the Batman we've ever gotten. Because like, he carries himself with so much weight. And he understands how to command a scene. To the point that like the first boyfriend interaction, I was just like, whoa. I don't know what is happening here, and I don't know who to believe, but it's very interesting. The other thing that we're going to kind of go into is the story. So again, the plot starts off like you're like really engaged. You like see Ben Affleck kind of riding his bike. Again, really great camera angles, really cool set-in moment. Matter of fact, the beginning of this movie starts the way that also it ends the same exact way, which is very fascinating. But when you start to kind of unravel their relationship and, you know, how Anna is with the daughter and why the daughter is the way she is, why the dad the way she is, why Melinda's the way she is, it starts to show there's a real issue going on and everybody's talking about it, like everybody. And I think that pivot is very good, you know, from a story standpoint, because then you could go do something with it. But unfortunately, the movie instead just allows the character Melinda to just spiral. And where on the other side, you're also seeing Vic spiral as well. It doesn't amount to much because it has implied a lot of different things about the character Vic, about not only what he used to do, but also like who he kind of possibly is, as well as Melinda and what she's really doing and what she's intending to do and what kind of person she is. And it just doesn't, it falls flat. Like, honestly, it doesn't amount to anything. Even though there are consequences to people's actions, like their actual real ramifications. Like this movie, I forgot to mention this. This is very rated R. Like, it's a lot of nudity, a lot of sexual activity, and also some violence and a lot of language as well. Some very shrewd, disturbing conversations as well, that don't help things either. But as the second transition happens in the second act, you start to realize like, okay, I see where we're going with this. But then they continue to push on the gas, but you're like, what is happening here? Like, it just doesn't, it's not as smart as it leads you to believe. It's not as invasive. It's not as engaging to make you process why you care. I guess that's the best way I can kind of put it. Like, there's a question to why do I care about either one of these characters by the end of this film? And I really, unfortunately, really don't. Like, whereas I was kind of like, okay, I want to see where this is going to go. All the way down to, like, certain other characters, I'm like, who really cares? Like, it's like you've broken a certain seal of something, of realm of believability. And then also, like, the intrigue is gone out the door past the middle of the second act. And so that's where things get really hairy, unfortunately for me. And I have to kind of rest this at like a 4 or 5 out of 10. I rest it at a 4.5 out of 10. I think that there were some really interesting ideas. They just don't do anything with them. But I give credit. Every point that I'm giving is credit to the craft of Ben Affleck and Anna, because they're doing an amazing job. It's just the direction of how this is going. I don't know. Like, even when I think about like a movie like Gone Girl, like, it's, I don't like making comparisons, but like Gone Girl really spins you. And there's a point to it. There's a whole pivot that not only is there real consequences, but there's thoughts. And you're like, you don't you're left with like, wow. And this movie does leave you on a very intriguing note where you're kind of pondering some stuff, but it doesn't amount to anything that you really care about. And I think that's the downside, unfortunately, of this film. Let me know what your thoughts are on Deep Water. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that bell button, keep it locked. JVS, we ain't gonna stop. Till next time, guys. Peace.